How's it going, everyone? I'm Mel from Fortin Amps, and in this video, we're going through the Tempest and the 6505 Plus. Alright, right now we're going to be breaking down that tone that we heard in the Stinger. As y'all may know, I used the 6505 Plus in the release video of the Tempest with the whole entire water scene and everything with my good friend Jacob Ortiz. But I felt like the video that I had previously didn't do that tone much justice since I glazed over the amp and focused more on the pedal and its features. So in this video, we're going to be showing off this tone highlighted in a mix and without, showing off the amp settings and my first impressions with the tone. So in this demo, I used my Legator 2019 Overdrive outfitted with Guitarmery pickups. And I know I might get some flack for using straight pickups with a multi-scale guitar, but at me in the comments. That guitar is running through the Tempest straight into the 6505, all gated by the Zool Plus. Then mic'd up with my Mesa 412 oversize with an SM57 straight into my Apollo with standard mix and EQ. So enough talk about the setup, let's jump into the full mix demo. Alright, I hope you guys dug that song. It had a lot of inspirations from the early days of my metalcore years, from bands like Atreyu and Bullet for My Valentine and such. The tuning was drop C, and to be honest, with the Guitarmery pickups, I felt like it was really bright and punchy coming straight out of the guitar. But because this is a converted combo amp, I felt like I struggled with a lot of the power that I regularly get with a full powered amp, like the Mesa Dual Rectifier, or even the JCM 2000 that I used in the previous video. I wanted a big, beefy, full chug, but I didn't want it to get too muddy. Every time I raised the low end to shift the amp towards a big, boomy, present sound, even raising the low or the resonance, I felt like I was taking up space from the clarity from the guitars. So in this demo, I approached the tone with two different mindsets. One, for the rhythm tone to give it nice body and nice clarity, but for the lead tone, give it more mids. I gave the rhythm tone enough clarity to give it some tone and body in the mix and note articulation, but I had a bigger focus on fullness. And for the lead tone, I had a bigger focus on fullness and mids, but not too harsh. Okay, starting off with the rhythm guitar tone, I used the green channel. For the pre or the gain knob in most amps, I ended up at about 4 o'clock, which is the edge of breakup for that amp. And then I used the overdrive to take it most of the way, to give it that cool gain structure and that cool Tempest bite. As for the EQ settings, I went for a fairly scooped but not too scooped, with the highs and lows at 6 and the mids at 4. The mids being a little scooped because I wanted to give space for that lead guitar to come in. The body seemed to come from the post knob. The louder I drove the amp, the bigger fullness and texture that I got with the big beefy punch that you usually get with the palm mutes, but I, for some reason, couldn't get that with the low. So I figured driving that post and driving those power tubes gave me what I needed in terms of body and sound. The presence I landed at about 6 because I didn't want it too bright or too harsh to get in the way of the lead guitar. And the resonance, I ended up at about 7 just to give it a good amount of flavor and a good amount of body, especially with the chugs, because I knew that the lead guitar wouldn't be filling up that space. As for the Tempest, I ended up with the level at about 9 o'clock, giving it a good boost pre-amp, or a good pre-amp boost, with a little bit of overdrive at about 3 o'clock, just to get the guitar tone a little bit consistent, but not completely compressing the tone so it lacked dynamics. As for the high pass, I kept it fairly open at about 9 o'clock, just because the guitar tuning is in C. I realized that the lower the tuning, the more I cranked the knob on the Tempest. And for the low pass, I had it at about 11 o'clock. I felt like because the guitar is a passive pickup, And in contrast to the Fisherman's that I had in the last demo, I felt like rolling off the high end, especially since this is the rhythm tone, and in conjunction with the lead tone that would add a little bit of more harsh frequencies in the mix, I needed to roll off those frequencies that would add to the harsh guitar tone. So I had it at about 11 o'clock. I still found that the pickups are fairly bright on the guitar maries, which is good for clarity, but in this situation I wanted to dial them back just a tad, just so I don't create overbearing mids. As for the lead guitar tone, I used the red channel. With the pre at about 2 o'clock, I found that the amp broke up almost instantly, even without the use of an overdrive, especially on this channel. And this channel was way more compressed than the tone that I got from the green channel, which meant that I didn't want to drive the gain too much because it would eat up a lot of the characteristics that I would get from the Tempest. Interestingly enough, for the lows, I ended up dialing them in at about 8 to 9-ish on the amp, just because I felt like it gave me the body and drive that I needed. And thinning out the tone didn't seem way too ideal for this circumstance, because I wanted it to still stand alone sometimes when it played. As for the mids, I had them pushed up more at about 6 o'clock. And as for the mids, I had them pushed up more at about 6. Just because those frequencies tend to poke out a lot more and give my lead the clarity that I need without boosting it in post. As for the highs, I pushed them up the same way, and I had them end up at about 7, just to give me that nice sizzle and that nice tone, that nice presence in the mix. And for the presence, I had it at about 4. It gave me more hiss than it gave me more presence, if you will, in the mix. As for the resonance, I dialed it back a notch just because it felt like it got muddy, and that ended up at about 6. As for the Tempest, I had the level at 12 o'clock just to push the amp a little bit further, but I felt like it didn't need that much. I had the drive at about 10, 9 o'clock, just because I wanted it to be a little bit more compressed, and I wanted it to be a little bit more consistent than the previous tone. Because the red channel does a ton of compression and a ton of the heavy lifting, it kept my tone consistent, especially regarding the lead playing that I do in the middle part of the song and the tapping that I do in the end. As for the high pass, I had it at about noon because I really didn't need those low end frequencies because I already had that taken care of with my rhythm channel. And for the low pass, or the high control that I like to say on the Tempest, it was at about 1 o'clock. And I did that so I could push the pick attack and the clarity a bit more before it came into the amp. So now that I broke down my thought process on dialing in both these guitar tones, let's hear these tones isolated, outside of the mix. Alright, so there you have it, my tone broken down with the 6505 Plus. I hope you guys dug the tone in this video, and if you did, hit the thumbs up button, ring the bell for notifications, and sub to the channel if you haven't already. Also, let me know in the comment section what guitar amp I should use in my next video, as you guys know I'm running out. Also, rate my tone, let me know what you thought, and let me know what you would do differently in the comment section as well. Again, I'm Mel from Fortin Amps, and I'll catch you on the next one.